Well, hello everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Welcome to our center court session on executive MBAs. We have two alums from two great programs, and we're going to talk about how an executive MBA can advance your career. We have Alberto Lozano, who got his degree from HEC Paris. He is a principal economic analyst at Qatar Energy. And we have Yana Moldovan, who went to London Business School for her executive MBA. She's an executive transition coach and partner at NYC Scale. Welcome. So I wonder, Yana, why don't we start with you? Can you tell us a little bit about where you were in your career and why you decided to get an executive MBA in the first place?
Yeah, sure. So I did my executive MBA at London Business School in our London campus. We have two campuses in Dubai and London. I did it in London 10 years ago, just celebrated my 10-year anniversary with my classmates in
Oh,
London.
fantastic.
And yes, it was yesterday. So when I applied for LBS, I had just over 10 years of career experience. I was in consulting at that time and first time entrepreneur. At the same time, I was based in Germany, and my thinking behind application was that I want to go to the best school, and it had to be in Europe because I didn't feel like traveling to the US. I traveled quite a lot for consulting. That was enough. And to be honest, LBS didn't take me the first time I applied. So, yeah, that's in a nutshell. I can obviously tell more about that.
Great. And Alberto, how about you?
So myself, I was in the middle of my career with around 20 years experience, and I really wanted to change, and I wanted to upskill and reskill myself. And HSC was the best fit for me in terms of what I was looking for academically, but as well geographically, because I am Spanish and I spend time in the Middle East, so I want to be exposed to Europe and the GCC region here. HSC has campuses now in Riyadh and in Doha as well, and as well logistically, because it was possible to me to make the program at the same time I was still working. So those were the reasons that took me to take this program. I just graduated in July, so very recent. But as thing as Jana a bit mentioned, I'm already missing my friends and my cohort mates. Yes,
I bet.
have
Now,
a withdrawal syndrome.
were you based in Paris when you took your executive MBA, or did you travel there?
I was John. I was based in Saudi Arabia, working for Saudi Aramco, and I traveled to Paris. It was a program part-time, where we were
Yeah.
having more or less 10 days of classes every 2 months during 18 months. Yeah.
Hmm. Wow, that's great. So Yana, you went to London, and I know that you earned your undergraduate degree at King's College London, so you were familiar with London very well. And I wonder, did that play a big role in your decision to go to LBS?
Actually, no, I didn't do my undergrad at King's. I did my undergrad in Germany in Frankfurt. What I
Oh,
did at King's was while LBS didn't take me the first time, I thought, okay, let me apply for the next intake. So September didn't work. I got into January intake afterwards, which I'm very happy about now, thinking backwards. So what I did was a strategy course at King's at that time, an
I
executive
see.
education. And then in my post grad, I went back to King's and did psychology and neuroscience add-on during the pandemic.
Right. Now, why do you think, Yana, you were accepted when you reapplied to London Business School? What changed that made it different?
Well, as we all know, there are many things that play together during the application, right? The quotas, the different type, because particularly at LB, I can only speak about LBS, particularly at the LBS, diversity has a very, very big weighting. Right? Okay, I am a woman, that brings a bit of gender diversity, but then obviously also the nationality, the type of work you do. If you have too many, let's say, consultants applying for one cohort, then there is a bit of a difficulty to get in. And also, I was applying quite late for that intake. I was one of the last people, so the class was already put together. That they told me, look, reapply for the next intake. And I thought, okay, not to waste time in between. Anyway, I'm in London. Let me go see what King's College down the road has to offer. And it made sense at that time.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And I should point out that, if you apply late to a program, many of the seats are filled. And to Yana's point, every admissions official wants to, basically recruit and enroll a diverse class of individuals. So you don't want too many of one person from a specific background like consulting. And while you may not have quotas, you want that diversity of industry experience, geography, and nationalities, because that adds a lot to the actual cohort and the classroom experience. Now, Alberto, what was it that made you decide what part of your career, because you had a very successful career at Saudi Aramo, why go for your executive MBA? Did you want to make a transition of some kind?
I wanted, just John, I wanted to have a change, a transition, doing something different during the second, let's say, 20 years of my career. So I thought for me, once the executive MBA will help me to upskill, reskill, get the business skills, and then be a lever for change. So using the network and having a different professional value proposition. So doing something different, but still leveraging my previous experience. And that's my target today. And I think that so far I'm happy with what the master has given me to achieve that. So yes, change and challenge, I think will be the two key words.
Now, what were the factors that led you to HEC Paris?
Well, first that I was targeting geographically Europe, and HSA is considered one of the best business schools in Europe. The second part for me was particularly that the school in the program offers an specialization in energy, is shaping the future of energy. And that was something related to my previous experience. And that was the one of the triggers that got me to this program. However, John and Jana, this is the interesting thing. I didn't do that specialty. During the course, I realized that there were other options that maybe were more complementary to me. And at the end, what I did was innovate like an entrepreneur, which complements a bit my experience in technology development. And because of that, I have become a kind of little business angel and advisors to startups. So I think I had added something more. I realized that probably the specialization it was not going to add me as much value as I thought when once I see the syllabus and what going to be taught there. Yes.
Yeah, that's interesting. It also speaks to, the number of possibilities when you enter a program, because there are a lot of elective offerings, and some programs have a lot of concentrations and choices. So even though you were drawn to the school for one reason, you discovered that actually I'd like to, dive deep into a different topic, which is great that you had the possibility to do that. Now, Yana, what was it like? What were you expecting? And what were the surprises for you as a new executive MBA student back when you went to LBS?
John, when I was applying, I took a lot of time to weigh my decision, to be honest. So I told myself at that time, I will apply to one school only, and I will apply as long as it takes to get there. I just had to decide which school it was, and I narrowed it down to LBS and NCED, and then LBS was the one. I talked to all kinds of people in my network who did an MBA. I took an opportunity if all schools offered, but LBS at that time was offering an opportunity to come and sit in class if you wanted to. So I wanted to see, is it the type, like, what is the experience to be in the class? What are these the type of people I want to surround myself with and spend money on, right? Because it is a substantial investment. I was paying for my MBA myself. And nothing prepares you for the experience. So you will talk to all people and everybody will tell you like we are telling them today, but it's one thing to hear it from somebody and another is to actually go through the experience. It is very intense and very rewarding if you decided to be, right? There are all kinds of people. In my classroom, what I loved was we had all types of nationalities. It was an executive MBA, so part-time, people flying in, people having all kinds of different jobs. We had everybody from surgeons to fighter pilots to IT consultants. We had entrepreneurs, bankers. So you had a class full of very diverse experiences and mindsets. So what we were learning, and that's what we discussed actually in May at our 10-year reunion, that we learned really more from each other. Of course, everybody can read the books, and nowadays you have access to information 24/7. So everybody can get pretty much any type of content out there. But the experience of this intensity together with people from all walks of life, this is what makes it very, very special.
And the structure of the program at LBS, first off, it's a 20-month program,
Yeah.
right? And there are consecutive Fridays and Saturdays of alternate weeks. And then you also have some residential monthly modules, 5 days long, usually Tuesday to Saturday, right?
Yeah. So what at LBS, it depends on which campus you pick. If you are in Dubai, then it is alternate weekends on Fridays and Saturdays. And if you're in London, and if you're in Dubai, I think the structure is a little different, particularly when it comes to electives. So we separate the program in two parts. The first is the first block is where the class is together and we do everything together on the alternate weekends. And then you get into the election cycle, and that's where everybody chooses the classes for themselves, and the setup. Is it a weekend course? Is it a weekly one evening course, or is it a block week? And also during the electives, we get mixed with different programs. So you go there, you have full-time MBAs, you have masters in management, masters in finance, and the Sloan program together.
Now, did you do the entire program in London, or did you split up the core?
No, I did some of the electives in Dubai as well. I spent a significant time in Dubai, and that is also what made me move to Dubai 3 years ago. I didn't plan to do it after the MBA. It wasn't in the cards. I really liked London, so I stayed in London career-wise. But now 3 years ago, when I decided I want to move out of Europe and pursue career somewhere else and have a career change, Dubai was a natural transition. It's a growing economy. There's a lot happening. And I didn't come to an empty space. I already had a network. I had trusted people here.
Right. Now, like Alberto, did you specialize in a given area in your program or not?
Yes, I did the specialization in innovation and entrepreneurship. That was super interesting because we had the opportunity to go to Babson College in the United States, in Boston, which is known because entrepreneurship.
Oh,
And
yes.
that was for me one of the most interesting experience to see a totally different mindset for business and risk taken. I, I was like really, really surprised. And I mean, it was one of my highlights, right? So that was around 2 weeks, or maybe it's at 20% of the total number of credits. And then in my case, as well as Jana, we were able to do some a kind of mobility. They call it mobility. So I could come to Doha for 1 week. I could not do more than that, but there were many, many options for people to go to other schools, not just at this campus as well for electives. And that's the main specialization of the course. Of course, then you have a capstone project, which is again another 20% probably of the credits that allows you to choose some area where you are going to work a lot of hours and then you are going to become some kind of a specialist in the topic. Yes.
Right. And the structure of the program was what, basically?
So we were having around 2 weeks to 1 week, depends, the duration could be 1 week to 2 weeks, every 2 months and a half. So we were meeting all the cohort there in Paris, and I think we have 5 of those modules. It's very interesting when Jana said that they are gonna, you had just your 10th anniversary reunion, because we are gonna have what we call our module 6 forever. So every year we are gonna meet in some place in the world and have a module 6 to see each other and to learn about something as well together. So that was the 5 modules. And then on top of that, the specialization, which is of course mandatory for everyone, and the capstone. In total for me were like 18 months of work until I finish everything from September 2022 to March 2024.
And of the 5 modules, one is in either Qatar or Saudi Arabia, right?
You can choose to do so.
Okay.
Yes. Other people went to, for example, to Brazil. Very
Oh,
nice.
okay.
Yes. So
Wow.
and then the specializations as well. They have all, maybe mostly of them, or several of them have 1 week in Paris and then 1 week in other places of the world. So that allows you to network with other students, like something I did here myself in Doha. Now it's very valuable to me because I found this job in my current position is in Doha. And as well to see how many other people do businesses, like my case with Babson.
Right. And Alberto, I understand the program is 15 to 18 months long. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct, John.
Is it longer? In other words, the 18-month version, is that basically a function of how long your capstone project is in the EMBA?
Yes, yes. The total length depends of your schedule and how long, how, let's say, how much time you are gonna have for your capstone. It depends of the program type, because there are I think there are 3 tracks that they run like this every 2 or 2 months and a half, and then there is another track that runs every 2 weekends. So
Uh,
it depends when you start, when you graduate, and then the capstone, it could be 50. And as well, it depends when you do your specialization. There were people that in 1 year they completed everything, including the specialization, and then just have the capstone. So it depends on
oh,
your choices. So you can as well spread out your classes if you choose the mobilization opportunity.
right. Makes sense. Now, Yana, did you actually major or concentrate in a specific area like Alberto did within entrepreneurship and innovation?
Yeah, so you don't officially have a specialization that you need to pick. It depends on how you structure your electives within LBS. right? So nobody tells us what type of electives to pick. We can focus either completely on organizational behavior or completely on finance or completely on something else. It's up to everybody. So once we do the first part of the program and kind of get to know the professors, understand, the mindset changes during the program. And the many people came into a course with one idea of what the future would look like, and it completely changed during the MBA time and afterwards, right? I mean, I can tell you, I had some classmates who came with a very structured career in banking with an idea to reach C-level, then quit jobs during the MBA and became entrepreneurs with somebody they met on the course. We have a lot of anecdotes like this, right? So I talked to a lot of people who finished a year or two before me, what type of electives to pick. And everybody was saying pretty much the same along the lines of focus on organizational behavior, focus on the soft skills, leadership, strategy, this type of courses, right? And focus on who is the professor. So LBS has some very, very well-known names in the world, top thinkers. So their electives are extremely popular and very hard to get to. So that was the priority. I wanted to go and be in the classroom with the professor that I knew, there won't be another opportunity to get into a classroom with that person outside of the school setting, or it will be a very, very expensive opportunity to be around that person, right? Somebody like Erminia Ibarra or Linda Grattan, just to name a couple. And that strategy worked very well for me. What I also did, what LBS has, is entrepreneurial summer school. So it's a program that one can apply to being part of LBS, but also from the outside. It's a program that runs during the summers, it's called, right? Where you work hands-on to develop. And that was a very interesting experience. I did it at the end. I did it after I finished all my electives.
Now, could you tell us about two courses that you took that you really liked the most and why?
Yes. I mean, Alberto, do you want to go first?
Oh, I can, Jana, but that's a very difficult question, John, to be honest. I think it's a very difficult question to that. Look, one of the things I really love, it was what it was called the outdoors, I'm gonna say it was an outdoors leadership seminar. So basically, we were playing Rambo type of things in the forest for learning leadership, and that was an amazing experience.
So doing
That
like
was like
team building exercises and things like that.
yes, team building, leadership. We were a group of people during the 2 days. Different people were taking the role of leaders. We had to do some kind of test, maybe crossing a river, maybe saving someone, maybe a lot of different steps, and that was really bonding with people. It was very nice because it was multi-core, so people from Doha came, from Riyadh came, and we were very tired, but it was amazing experience. That I really like it. Then, from the point of view of, I will say more academically, the conventional academical, what I really, for me, was a kind of a big opening of eyes because I was an engineer. I still am engineer, but in my contact with business was a strategy. It was something that I never. It was for me something to you always like a bit like not clear from an engineering mind point of view, and I found it amazing. Both corporate strategy and business strategy for me were like open eyes courses. Yes.
And Yana, for you?
I'm a little bit jealous of Alberto's
No, he
wild.
got to go to Babson for 2 weeks. He got this
Yeah,
outdoors leadership and team bonding exercise.
yeah. I mean, we did that with our class trips. We just organized them for ourselves. Um, Looking back, I think, which classes do I remember the most now, 10 years down the road? Because, I mean, each class made some kind of an impact. There are
Sure.
legal parts to a whole. But looking back, it was negotiation and bargaining with Nero, who is one of the top professors at LBS, very, very famous. If you come to LBS, everybody will tell you, make sure you get into the elective with Nero. That completely changed and shaped the way I negotiated afterwards. And it had a big impact in my career. Since sales is part of what I do, that was very important. And definitely Herminia Ibarra's classes shaped very much my choice, my career choices afterwards in terms of building a portfolio career, because that's really where her early works on career identity made a lot of impact in the way I was thinking and making decisions on the next career steps.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So it really shaped who you became and how you viewed your work life.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, a lot of people who think about doing an executive MBA often worry about the time commitment and the sacrifices that they have to make when they get into the program. These are accelerated, intense, rigorous academic programs. This is not a simple, easy thing to do. People have very busy professional and personal lives. So the big question is, how did you navigate through the program and achieve some sense of balance in your life while completing it? Now, Alberto, you're the more recent grad. Let's go to you first.
Yes, John, you are absolutely right. And I think that's something that we have to acknowledge and let people know that uh, is a big amount of work. It's a lot of volume of things to be done. And you have a limited number of hours per day. And then you have to manage your personal life, your family life, the executive MBA. And if you are working, your workload as well. Personally, there were some moments, just peaks at work where I was really stressed and I had to compromise. When you mentioning how can you cope with it, some moment I had to compromise. I had said, okay, for this subject, I'm not gonna be able to go as deep as I would like, and I'm not gonna do the optional readings, and I'm gonna have just tried to go with the minimum, right? So that's one of the ways that one can cope with the workload, having a list of priorities, what is more interesting for you, what is more you like more, is more important for you, and then compromise your time. Other thing that is really important, if possible, is to be very organized and have discipline and try to work continuously. In our case, when I changed my approach of the last minute to just do the deliverables of every module after the module and then prepare the next one, and not working in parallel and multiple things at the same time, things were easier. And then, well, you have as well the help of your friends. Sometimes in a project you can work more. Sometimes in a project you can work less because many of those are together as well. But yeah, that's a challenge, and everyone has to manage it. And it's as well a very good learning, personal learning, because I personally I discovered how many things I can do if I want, and if I organize myself, and I decide to do them. Right, there is a lot of time. I realized that there is a lot of time that I was wasting before, right? So this helped me to say, okay, you can do many more things that that you were doing it you want. So it's a very good learning for me, yeah, as well.
Yeah, and it requires you to set priorities, and I'm sure there's also pressure because you want to perform for the teams that you're in doing the work, and not slack off, right?
Mm. Yes, it's important that you when you are in a group, you read your assignments, you collaborate, and you participate, because if not, you are lagging everyone. You need to be there to be responsible for that. Yes.
Now, Yana, how is your work-life balance?
There's no such thing as balance. That's the first thing to learn during MBA. It sets you up for life. And
See, that's good advice from an executive coach. You know, I
yes,
once was the editor-in-chief of a magazine in America called Fast Company. And one of the covers that we did was titled Balance is Bunk, meaning
exactly.
non-existent. There are some times in your life where you have to devote a lot of time to one thing and neglect others, and it switches around. And what you want is to achieve balance over the course of your life, right?
100%. So, and I stick to it. There's no such thing as balance in life, but there are priorities. So you give your energy to what your priorities are, as Alberto just put it, right? You put everybody who comes there, it's a significant investment. And it's not only investment of money, it's an investment of time. So you get what you put in. We were divided in working groups, right? In study groups. So there are 5 people who depend on you. If you're not doing your part of the work and you're a freeloader, to say it, as it is, this will backfire, because these are the people who will remember you down the road in 10 years on, where you contributing, where you a team player or not, right? Or where you a leader, or whatever your contribution was at that time. And particularly at LBS, from my experience, they made it hell for us at the beginning. That was hell, because everybody had a full-time job. Then you have people with different experiences in the classroom, right? Somebody who comes from corporate finance had a very different experience in a finance class than somebody who was a pilot, right?
Sure.
So you have people who know more about the subject or less about the subject. And we had to learn from each other. We had to contribute to each other's growth. And then what LBS did is they throw this workload of you, and you don't know where it's coming from. There are pages and pages of reading. It's just, I had a feeling that, I read a lot, and maybe LBS shaped me as well, that I read nonstop now, but that was just 24/7 reading. And it was constantly some case study to be prepared. Then you have people sitting in all kinds of countries with different jobs, different family situations. Some had young kids, some were just getting married, some were getting divorced, somebody was changing a job. Life doesn't stop during the 2 years. There's constantly something happening, and you need to prepare, and you constantly have some kind of exams happening. So
Yeah.
if you think it's going to be hard, just double it, because it's going to be really, really, it's going to be intense. It's not that it is hard, it's not rocket science, but it is extreme intensity. So it really builds resilience. We also had people drop out. So that is also a reality of things, that in every intake, there will always be one or two who will drop out at some point.
Now, generally, EMBA programs tell participants that in addition to whatever time you spend in class, you can expect to spend roughly 20 hours of your time every week preparing for assignments, doing the readings, doing the projects. Did you find that to be roughly right? So 20 hours a week plus your class time. Is that what you feel you had to do, or did you feel you did less
Or
or more?
even more, because you have
Yeah.
to, or it's not just preparing. You have to, or the difficult part is to organize. So you have 5 people. Let's say I am in a study group. I have 4 other people. So we have 5 people in 5 time zones with 5 very different job and family situations. And we have every 2 weeks to deliver on top of everything else that everybody has to deliver. So it takes a lot of time to plan. Then somebody doesn't like something. I mean, it's usually A-type personalities, and they put you in groups together also to test, personalities. So some groups are very rocky, and it's part of the learning, right? There's sometimes drama, there is sometimes you're not, and then also we spend a lot of time of socializing. So
Yeah.
on top of learning, on top of classes, and I would encourage everybody who goes into an MBA to make sure to spend as much time together outside of classrooms, because nobody will remember, did you get an A or an B in corporate finance? But they will remember the conversations you had outside, the time you spent traveling together, the time you spent helping somebody, the time you had, some kind of a social interaction. So those weekends that we were in London were extreme weekends, and we needed half of the week to recover from them. So we also had people leave their jobs. I think probably out of the cohort, at least a dozen of people left their jobs during the program.
Of their own accord, of course, right? Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, because they wanted to change, they wanted to move country, and they were able to get new jobs through people that they met in the course, or they wanted to take time out, a sabbatical or something else.
Sure. Now, Alberto, I wonder what was the most beneficial thing you learned in business school, and then how you apply it to your work today.
Okay, that for me is a very interesting question, because I think what is the most beneficial thing I learned is how to network. And for me is important, because I say myself that I believe I am a giver, and I was doing a lot of network before, but I was not aware of how to do properly and what is the impact that networking can have, right? And we had several classes, I will say optional, as part of the professional development program, about networking. And on those, I really understand how to do networking and how much value I can create with that. And after the executive MBA, that's something I'm doing now continuously. And it is amazing the amount of good things that can happen just doing that. The network is for me one of the big values of the program. I think that applies for any school, but in HSS the network is very big, and there is a lot of cohesion. And that's for me something that I is one of those things that, together with entrepreneurship, I had decided to do for the rest of my life after the executive MBA. Yes.
Interesting. Yana, how about for you? What was the most beneficial part of going to business school?
Well, I changed my mindset. And I agree with Alberto that networking is the #1 reason why you would do an MBA. What I learned for myself, I guess when I say I changed my mindset, is I came into the program with the purpose of kind of taking a next career step, having a more international role, and so on, the usual what you would call 10x, 2x steps, right? But what I really learned by being surrounded by people from around the world with very different careers, what I really learned and what shapes my thinking now is I learned that the future is malleable. And that's when I learned that you can change, you can do the triple jumps that they tell you about. You can change to something completely different and it will be okay. You don't have to follow a certain path, you can change the path. And when, for example, when I moved now 3 years ago to GCC, to UAE, my very first job, my very first I got through somebody who was my classmate 10 years ago, and it was a project in Saudi at one of the Giga projects. I would have never gotten that
There's the
without,
value of networking right there.
yes, without having done the work 10 years ago, right? I changed my career. I am teaching at NYU campus in Abu Dhabi, in one of the accelerators. I'm teaching the Academy of Women Entrepreneurs. I do the executive coaching. At NYC Scale, it's called Not Your Consultant. So it's focused on startups and helping them scale. So I was really able to create a portfolio career where I can live out, my growth, my need for growth, for learning. And I wouldn't have dared that if I wouldn't have had the lessons 10 years ago.
Right. That really underlines Alberto's point that networking is so important, and it's something that you may not have thought about very hard before business school, but once you had that experience, you realize the power that comes from relationships with other people and how they enrich your own life, which is really an important lesson. Now, Alberto, what most surprised you about business school? And then finally, what advice would you give to other people who were in your shoes a few years ago when you were thinking about, should I do it or shouldn't I do it?
Okay, so the first thing that surprised me, John, is how much fun I had. Because to be honest, I thought it was going to be something very formal, very professional. And then personally, I have lived a second Erasmus experience, right? So we had so much fun, and I got a very and full new group of friends. I call it some way for me is like now a board of directors of my personal and professional life. And I know already that I had made friends there that are gonna be friends forever. And that has a lot of value. So that is something I was not expecting at all. This kind of family bonding, friendship, fun. And we keep doing a lot of things and I keep talking to people all the time. So I was not expecting that. I was expecting another more professional, serious, less human, I will say,
Yeah.
bonding and course, right? And then the thing I will recommend to people is two things. I would recommend two things. Do it as soon as possible, because personally, I believe the sooner you do it, the less your previous experience is going to wait and some way save the opportunities that you can have later after having the executive MBA. Do it as soon as you're possible or your MBA. And the second one is try to do it full time. Even in my case, one thing I regret is not to have done this part-time master in a full-time dedication mode. Some people have done it. Why? Because you can get much more of it. And then in the case of HSC, you can take value from all the other alternative things that you can do beside these 5 modules, the capstone and the specialization. There are so many electives, so many things that you can do. And in some way, I'm jealous of those people who could do much more than I did because I was working at the same time. To the point that at the end, I quit my job and I take a bit of sabbatic time, transition time, and then I try to get a bit more of it, right? So that would be my two recommendations. Yeah.
That's great. Yana, what was your big surprise? And then what would be your advice to would-be applicants to an EMBA program?
I am 100% with Alberto here.
Yes.
I had a lot of fun. And I would, the surprise, probably the surprise now, 10 years later, you can only connect the dots backwards. The surprise was how much value I got out of it, right? It wasn't as cool in terms of I go, I do a course, I get a certificate. It wasn't. It was really a life-changing addition that shaped a lot of my future decision. But that depends on everybody. I mean, not everybody is, everybody has a different personalities at different stage of their lives. And I'm sure in my school, in Alberto schools, you will have plenty of people who would say, yeah, whatever, I did it, yeah, fine, got it. And then they never get in touch again. But these are minority people.
Right.
So one thing that I always remember and that I learned during the time by experience is that people do business with people. So an executive MBA is about relationship building, is about building your mindset, building you as a leader. It's not about reading books and doing exams.
That's right.
And that's something you take back and you give forward to the people who work with you. So my suggestion is, and I, again, with Alberto on this one, if you can do it during a sabbatical, try to get a sabbatical, or at least do it during the time in your career when something slows, when you want to change, when you're not, because if you're in a high intensity job, you cannot be at two weddings at the same time, right? You cannot, you can't play 100% at two things at the same time. So if you decide to do that, decide to do it as soon as possible. Make sure you put a lot of work into picking the right schools in terms of culture and in terms of people who will be in your classroom. Like, ask as many questions as possible, because every intake is different, every class is different. Somebody in my year, we say we had the best class LBS has ever seen. We are 100%, standing behind that. And maybe somebody a year or two down the road would have said, no, our class was really boring and not interesting. I don't know, but it really depends on the composition of the team you will be with. So it pays to ask the right questions ahead of time.
Okay, that's great advice. Yana and Alberto, thank you so much for joining us. I had as much fun, maybe as you two had in your executive MBA program, when it was late at night, you were preparing for either an exam or a project, and you were thinking, there's no way I'm going to get this thing done.
Yeah.
But thank you. And for all of
Thank
you
you.
out there, yes, for all of you out there, if you want to know more about the London Business School Executive MBA or the HEC Paris EMBA, go to their websites. They have great information, and follow the advice of Yana and Alberto. Seek other people out. Maybe you visit the class and you're a fly on the wall for a day, and you can see what a class is actually like. You have a coffee or lunch with some classmates who might be your future classmates, who knows, and really do your research to make the right choice for you. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for joining Center Court.